Did you?
Yes, I did.
Let's start with that.
Let's start with this.
So it's funny you say that because I'm looking at how things have been for the past couple of months, and I'm like, I need to get back to certain routines.
Yes.
And I used to sit down with the frequency files on. I have like a 999 one that I just sit there and just do, quiet and everything else. And I used to have a stack of $1 million bills in my hand and I would just count them out in my head. But the story, so people who are just tuning in and wondering why Krista has a fake $1 million bill is because I had to get in the process of being able to hand those out to people. So when I do have that much money and more, that it's easier for me to let it go and not hoard it, so to speak.
Yes.
And in regards to hoarding, I don't know if you saw TC's series called Help, I'm Hurting.
Yes. Love it.
Yes. And we'll put that in the link. But there was a senior pastor who talked about Help, I'm Hoarding. And when she went through it, it was like, man, I really didn't think about it that way,
No, and it's funny you bring up the frequency because I've started experimenting with creating a series of sound frequencies to start doing recordings of sound frequencies and start like experimenting. And it's something I talked to our producer friend about yesterday about doing a series of those to see what impact that would have. Because I've noticed messing with that speaking of hoarding, and I'm glad you brought up hoarding because everyone thinks of hoarding like it's something physical, like you're hoarding material things. It's not. It's hoarding emotions. It's hoarding resentments. It's hoarding anger. It's hoarding all these things.
It's a whole lot.
And you don't realize how much you're dragging with you until you sit down and you have something like a frequency sound training going on, or you're sitting in meditation, or you're having to deal with some kind of crisis and you're forced, or you're in prayer and you are forced to look at yourself. And then you have to unpack all these things that you've hoarded over the years. And it can become traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah. And even so it's I wouldn't say it's a coincidence that we're on this because I was stepping back and again going back to finances and I'm looking at, it's kind of like when we look at hoarding, I'm getting rid of the self beating up, if that's the way to put it, because it's like, so let's case in point. Last year during COVID, I only went out when I needed to. But when I went out, I came home with a carload full of food because, again, it was in the beginning and it was like, you can only get what was there. And then finally, when you did get there, it's like, so I strategically was able to map it out to know that when certain things were going to be restocked and all this other stuff and going to certain stores, especially when you have the buy one, get one free and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yesterday, for whatever reason, it came to mind. And it was really one of those things of, was I necessarily hoarding the food out of fear, or was I also necessarily hoarding it because it's like, this can be the last that my kids can have, or, you know what I mean? So it was like a whole lot of emotional stuff.
Yes.
And I think what triggered it too is Ida, because with Ida falling on the anniversary of Katrina, I remember Katrina. RJ and Raymond were younger, but I'm still looking at the fact that I'm seeing on the news me sitting where I was still working at SunTrust. Me sitting down and, watching the news and all this other stuff and seeing that mothers had to make a decision on who ate and who didn't, or who survived and who didn't, who she had to let go because she's trying to pull 2 kids. And even going back to COVID, I was in that same mindset. Like I only ate bare minimum. So even though I had a car full of food and like busting out the seams of the pantries, the freezers, and all this other stuff, I still rationed food for myself and then because the kids were home full time, they were, weren't in school. So of course it's like, I needed to make sure that there was food consistently in the house and, you know, a whole lot of other stuff.
Mhm.
So these past couple of weeks has been that reminder of stepping into the new level, but letting go of old mindset.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, because even with finances, it's like I know that I can have the money in the bank to pay this bill, but it's like it's like that anxiety.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're like, is this the last of it? And if I let go of it, what am I gonna
right,
do? Yeah, I'm
right.
totally there
It's
with
just
you.
like, and because of, and people, it'll make sense when we start talking about this more. We would say for the past, what, 3 months, we have been through,
Oh my gosh.
I need to say hell, high water, back to the honeymoon, and then back through the hurricane again, and all of this other stuff. Needless to say, the sun is shining on both sides that you can physically see, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that.
Mhm.
So in all of this, and you know, that self-reflection and stuff like that, because to your point, it wasn't until this Monday when I just sat down with my headphones in and I had the frequency at 999 and my whole demeanor changed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to get back to this.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah. You need that piece, because if you're constantly, and I know I'm one of the biggest culprits of this constant acting on fear, feeling the anxiety. I've got to do something right now, because, or it's all going to fall apart, or I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, or I'm waiting for the rug to get ripped out from under me. I will admit right here in front of everyone, I am a big culprit of that. And I always talking people off the ledge, but I'm the one that's the first one climbing up to jump off the cliff.
Yeah,
You know, I'll admit it, but it gets exhausting.
it
And you
does.
finally get to that point where you're so emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally exhausted that something's got to go. And it's like making that choice. Am I going to hold on to this because it's what I'm used to, and I've become so entrenched in this thought of fear-based thinking that it's become like my thing, or am I going to let it go? And getting back to that piece is what I think we all long for. It's just finding that path. And for you, it's the frequency. For me, I'm finding that it's the frequency, and sometimes just having that quiet talk. I also think that it might be, dare I say, a gender thing, male versus female, because I do think, and again, I am not stereotyping, and I'm not trying to drag any male into any kind of war over who processes and who
Right.
drags baggage.
Now, not to cut you off, we are now the minority of the company when it comes to gender.
Yeah.
Not saying that we have any problems with this, but now that you say that, we have a male dominant, and I love it because they balance us. The crazy thing is, like, sidebar, people, me and Krista put together, it's like a force to be reckoned with, first and foremost.
Hell yes. Hell
So
yes.
to say that we have majority men on our team is like, well, we have 8 personalities anyway, so it kind of works hand in hand. We're not the emotional, like, we get emotional with each other, but then when it comes down to, you know, putting that face on, it's like, all right, who do we need to run over? So yeah, that was just like sidebar. I just realized that we're like male dominated team. I love it though.
I do too. I do too. And what's lovely about that is that I've noticed, I don't know about you, but I've noticed since we've brought on the males, the drama's gone. The drama's gone. And you and I think more male dominated than we do.
It's bad. It is so bad.
It's pretty bad. But you see it when because we're hanging out with the guys. And what's crazy about that is that I think, but then that brings out the differences. I think a lot of men are willing to let go.
They are.
They're like,
everybody's on the team is like, tell me what I got to do, give me what I need, and that's it.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, cool.
I know. It's like cut and go. Whereas with us, it's like this constant mental step process. And then is everybody happy? Are we keeping everybody satisfied? What if this doesn't happen? What if I don't do this, this is not going to, and that's when you start to go completely nuts.
Yeah, it is.
That's when Bonker Town happens. And I think it is a female thing. I do think it's a mother thing.
It is too.
It's a
It is.
mommy thing. I think it's because we pre-kids, I don't remember being neurotic about that stuff. Post kids, it's like if you don't think about everything 10 steps ahead because you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, whatever it is, even one, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
screwed.
And even for those who don't have kids, because I don't want to leave them out and they have fur babies. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
really,
fur babies too. Oh yeah.
it's one of those things of, you can't go out of town because of, is Fido going to be fine at the doggy daycare? And, we've established that certain pets just don't like people. And it's like, how do we do this? And, we're still so on my end, we're still going through the vetting of becoming an emotional pet support. I still trying to figure that out, but
okay, no, we have to stop now for a moment. These are those days that I wish Bambi would just pop up so we could ask her how she feels about all of this, because I do wonder.
if Bambi were a person, I think she would be the author that have written The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. That's who Bambi would be. Because actually, I started reading the book, and when I tell you, he does have a lot of valid points of just like, and it was the reminder because, the dude-ish in Ebb, and I'd have to break it down because I have completely let go of the alpha in certain areas. That is a whole different podcast.
Yes, and we will get to that because that is an evolution.
We need at least 8 podcasts specifically for that.
Yes.
So I knew that I need to let go alpha in personal areas, but there's just certain times where I need that alpha back because the alpha just helps me not give a F.
Yeah.
And not to say that, and I have to bring our new partner from Chicago into this conversation, Chris, because he and I had this conversation, and the crazy thing is we're on Bible study. So case in point, we're part of TC Nation. We have all of these hot conversations, and we were talking about boundaries and relationships, and when is it the right time to let go and all this other stuff. I said, that's cool, but it never said that we have to forgive and still, be in communication or ha he he with the person.
Right.
And in conversation in this, the Ebb that really didn't give a rat's ass about anything.
Right.
Years ago, if I saw you choking, I may have thought about the fact that because I was CPR certified. I may have thought because, before you even start resuscitating anybody, and the crazy thing is, this is what gets me. They cannot be breathing and you still have to ask for permission. Like, who does this? They're not breathing. So how are they going to answer? They're going to go, no, they're not.
You have to ask permission?
In a lot of the trainings that I've been through, especially for corporate, and maybe it's because it's on the corporate level where, you have this whole not touching and feeling and all this other stuff. Like, I really don't want to grip on you anyway. So at the end of the day, because I was CPR certified, I may have thought about asking you if it was okay for me to get whatever is lodged out of your throat or in your throat out of your mouth so you can technically breathe. Now, I have grown to have more compassion like Jesus. But there are still those days where it's like, do I really give a rat's ass about you breathing right now because you're getting on my damn nerves? Maybe not. But I have grown.
Yes.
And I will have to step back and say, what would Jesus do? Now, Jesus did let somebody die for 3 days and then raise them from the dead. So
Lazarus, yes.
But even though we do have that power that we can raise somebody from the dead, that's a whole different conversation as well. I may not want to play with somebody's life right now because then I'd go down for them dying. And because, my certification has totally lapsed, but I can still do it. It still goes back to that whole thing of knowing when to let your alpha be awakened
Yeah.
versus knowing when to step back. And to your point, the mother comes out of us even in adults when, let's just take the team, for example. It's like we have a teammate who has a sick dog, and it's like, what do I need to do? Because I'm in Atlanta and the dog is sick and I want to make sure that the puppy's taken care of. And I'm like, I can't do it from here. So I just feel as if I'm worthless, not worthless in that, what I mean. Yeah. But it's like, what can I do to help this puppy become better?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is that it's that reaching out and that constant, how is the puppy? How are you doing? And I think that means a lot.
It does.
I think just the fact that you care and you're showing that care to this person and the puppy makes a huge difference to this person, because I think in a world now where people are all about ourselves, and COVID has really exacerbated that to a big extent, where we have a huge divide between people now, where even in families, people between COVID and politics, we've completely created a chasm.
Yeah, I'm so done with social media. I very rarely read the news. It just so happened that I saw the New York stations were flooded. So that was a prompting to definitely call my grandmother to make sure that she wasn't underwater.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I just stay away from it because it's just so draining, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And it's just like, who does this?
No. Well, I think it's because people have gotten so used to not sitting face to face.
Yeah.
And having to deal with the repercussions of saying certain things or acting a certain way without being called out in a physical space. It's easy to hide behind a camera or sit in the basement of the science building and type out a really nasty diatribe about how what you think about someone's political views, what you think about vaccines, what you think about COVID, what you think about conspiracies, whatever it is. We have become so uncivilized and so our compassion's gone, our empathy's gone, our ability to be altruistic is gone, that, you can be a big boy hiding, but can you be a man at the end of the day and step up and realize that you're hurting other people by being a jerk? And words hurt. Yeah. And it's funny. So our friend, I was talking to our friend yesterday morning, and we were having a conversation about a certain artist that is suffering mentally. And
I'm not laughing at him being, and the reason why I say that, because you're talking about someone on social media sending messages. Now, he and Drake has had this battle.
Yep.
Now, I have not listened to the Drake album as yet, but from what I've seen, he has come with the heat in response to certain things.
That's what I heard.
In regards to that, so I'm like, okay, so after our calls today, I'm really going to have to take it in. And needless to say, Drake's marketing for this album was genius.
Oh yeah.
With the billboards in specific cities for the, the artist featured in. So needless to say, go back to what you were saying.
Well, what was sad about that situation, and when I'm talking about being a big boy, being that big boy hiding behind other people, is that you have someone who's intentionally hurting themselves for their creative outlet. Mentally.
Yeah.
Doing it intentionally. Now, granted, the mental health situation is already sketchy to begin with because of the disorder this person has and the cycling this person has. But the fact that it's intentional, his actions are intentional, but his team's actions are intentional in maintaining that cycle so that they're making money off the back of someone who's sick and not stepping in and stepping out to protect this person so that they have longevity in their life and have longevity in their mental health. It's more about, what can we drain out of this individual? Because eventually he's just going to, finally going to finally drop, and then we'll move on to we'll become parasites on the next person.
Right.
And what's interesting, so what's interesting about all this is that the marketing around this album release, this whole series of listening events, some of the drama and ridiculous tactics that have been used in this has furthered this person's depth of dropping into the abyss. But I knew it had gone to a whole new level of low when yesterday I saw that Peppa Pig, who, if anyone doesn't know who Peppa Pig is a cartoon series out of England.
Yes.
That Peppa Pig is heckling him now because her album was scored a half a point higher on a chart than he is.
Yeah, that. So, and not to like let this take up the conversation, but even from, so I will give him this. He has been the first person to do a listening party tour. I give him that.
Yeah.
For the time that he lived in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, he has made his money back and then some, because from what I understand, he was paying $1 million a day by living there. Yeah. But when I saw, because I didn't see both of his or the previous listening parties, but I did watch the one for Chicago.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to looking at specific things in the music industry, and as you said, what people would let fly versus all this other stuff. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I am not the most perfect person, Christian or whatever else, but when you see certain things happening with, you know, songs that can potentially have great messaging, but then you have a whole lot of chaos going on, like, I just sat there and I'm like, what did I just watch?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call it out. It's being hypocritical.
I'm like, what did I just watch?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say it because it bothers me so much. And you know me, I try to be subtle about stuff. I'm just gonna be blunt. When you have a series where you're going around the country having church services and you are showing your love for Christ, but yet in your hometown, you're going to let a leading member of the Church of Satan walk out and step on the porch of a replica of your mother's home. Yeah. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So then it was like, you know, I had to go back. I'm like, did I have a glass of wine that night? I have no clue if I did or not. But then when I did see him walk out, I said, wait, am I seeing this person or am I hallucinating? Like, and just trying to figure out. And again, there had to have been somebody on his team that knew this person was coming, because this person needed credentials to even get into the building.
Oh yeah.
Did they not say like, yo, like, we may not want to do this because of XYZ and
No, parasites, because again, they knew it was going to create shock value. But what they failed to understand is that it made him look like a hypocrite, but it also made him look like a misogynist because of the fact that this individual has been charged with rape, charged with sex trafficking, charged with abuse of women, and is now being sued, and also has been arrested for assault by spitting on someone.
That is great. So here's my take on it. Here is my take on it, to, you know, not literally be devil's advocate, but I'm just being.
Love that.
So the kind of thought was, you know, maybe because of the songs, because of the previous reaching out, and I would always say this: people in their most desperate times would reach out to the God they serve. Like, that is a known fact. Yes. Known fact. So then it was like, okay, maybe he is allowing this person to come to show that there is redemption or whatever else. But then as I sat back and looked at it more, I'm like, I just got the heebie-jeebies just looking at this whole thing. Yeah. And people don't realize, and I say this all the time, spiritual is not in one place. Like, if we're doing certain crazy things or whatever else, it can be transferred from someone watching this video 3 years from now.
Right.
Like, I'm a true believer of that. So when I saw all of this going on, it's like, no, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like something just switched. Like, what happened? Yeah. You know?
You could see it in the body language. I mean, you see this person walk out of the house. He's not performing, and he's just sitting on the railing. like casual, like he's just watching the rodeo or something. And I'm going, really? Really? What the hell?
Yeah.
And I get, okay, so we've been in the industry. We know what's happening. We know what's supposed to be the purpose of this.
Yeah.
It's bullshit still.
It
To
is.
me, it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. It's hypocritical. His team knew this was happening. No one wants to talk him out of this stuff because they think any press is good press. No, it's not. You are destroying. While this man is brilliant creative wise,
Oh, yeah, he is.
you're
Definitely.
destroying his credibility. You're destroying his family. You are destroying his longevity as a person, as an individual. And all for how many dollars are you getting out of this? But you're a parasite. And this is where I get disappointed with humanity, because it's a matter of, what are you willing to do for $1?
It may not even be for $1. It may be for bragging rights, like, oh, I gave him his toilet paper so he can wipe his behind. Like, who cares?
Yeah, no.
And it's not even about, the crazy thing is, it's like the legacy that, me, I'm always looking at legacy. So what legacy is left behind? Because
you've got 4 children that are going to be carrying that burden.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
That's not fair to them.
Yeah.
And these are adults that could very well, and I understand from what I've heard that there is one adult in that whole crew that stands up and says something and speaks truth and gets shot down by the collective constantly. He only has one truth seeker in that whole group who's willing to speak up, and he gets constantly shut down.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. But needless to say, this is the reason why I believe in what we do so much, and glad that we have the team in place, because as much as we love music, it still comes with a mental toll.
Yes.
Like when you look at the creatives, the geniuses, like if Michael Jackson was still alive today, I would literally want to sit him down and be like, yo, what is like really going through your mind right now? Because, again, creative genius, but then at the same time, when you, and I don't want to get into this, but when you look at certain artists like Prince, and all this other stuff, who have been awakened to certain things and that have started talking about certain things, like we think it's all, Billboard chart hits. Like, no, if you really sit down and listen to the words and also look at how the videos were done.
Yes.
Like you would literally understand that there's certain things that are, taking place for them saying, no, this is what you need to pay attention to.
Yes.
And even from the standpoint, I heard it got to a point where Prince wouldn't even do records with people unless they own their masters.
Yes.
Like for him to really understand, like you have to have ownership of your stuff, and I can't even collaborate with you.
Yeah.
And that's like saying, I can't personally collaborate with you unless you own the business. Like, and not, no slight to all of these, not the pyramid scheme companies, but like the health and wellness companies and all this other stuff. Right. You have all of these people saying, oh, I make so-and-so from this company. You don't own the company. Come to me when you own the company. Do I use some of the products? I stopped using it, especially last year, when you can see the truth of where people stood with certain things. Yes. I can let go of a product real quick. Yep. But there's this one product that I use because it's organic cleaning stuff, Melaleuca. And I mean, I've been using it for years. Can I resell it? Yes. I don't want to put the time into it, but don't come to me and say that you make X amount of money from this company. Okay. To me, that's a multiple stream of income. What do you have in ownership?
Exactly. And I think what is so disappointing, if you look at these creatives and you look at and you're right, it does take a mental toll, because there's a responsibility with the creative process, and always wanting to better and better and better and surpass. That responsibility gets really heavy. to drag behind you. And that reputation that you develop is really heavy to continue to build, because you're only as good as your last viable product, right?
Well, not only that, you have to like make the conscious decision. Are you going to sell out,
right,
and go against your personal values, or are you going to go towards the money, or not go towards the money and stick and be true to yourself? So I can just imagine how mentally draining that is.
Well, it's funny because the conversation that I had yesterday, I kept saying, you're no longer a person, you're an object.
You are.
And that's the sad side of art, is that when does it become an outlet for you, a safe space for you, a extension of you, and then turns you into the extension of it?
Right.
And you become that object that everyone is seeking, and you cease to be who you are anymore.
Yeah.
And it's more about what it's about what you can give, not and what they can get from you, not what you can, give to yourself or give to the world in beauty anymore. It becomes something quite different. And we're seeing it in everything now. And I think that's why we're not seeing people doing it in a healthy way. And we're seeing so many people dropping left and right, because there comes a point in a time when that responsibility and that becomes a burden. And it's too much of a burden for a lot of people. And that's why we're seeing some of these great people either drop out of society and drop out of sight, or giving up their lives because they cannot deal with that level of responsibility anymore, that people are and that pressure that's being put on them to be a certain thing. And I think through a lot of the work that we do with the team that we have, what's really awakened me is the fact that these are people that are very passionate about keeping the art an art, but also making sure that it is an outlet and a safety zone for people, and keeping it that way, not letting it become a machine.
Well, not only that, I mean, the people that we've been, the one person that we talked about, or just people in general, they've technically lost their voice. They lost their why as to why they started. And I have to look at someone like Jay-Z, because it's like, when you first hear that he, I remember where I was. I remember when I was listening to his first album. I remember the tenacity of what he, had. He never wavered. Like today, he can be featured on someone's album because he wants to. He doesn't have to. But he still doesn't waver from anything of it. Like, I need to go listen to the song that he did with Drake, because they were posting his lyrics on Instagram, and I was like, well, dang, he still stayed true to the art. And what we're doing with Find Your Voice, and now implementing the new program, My Life, Your Entertainment, we're taking them in the process of finding their voice through whatever they're dealing with, and then taking their life and turning it into entertainment, but still teaching them the integrity of the music business.
Exactly. And it is. And I love that word. You used it so perfectly, the integrity, keeping your own personal integrity, but also the integrity of the business. And I love that you used Jay-Z as a good example, because if anyone can show in the industry, a true pillar of a strong Black man who has stayed true to himself, his art, and to his community, that's him. He really, truly has. And even though he's had his slip ups along the way, he has always been a pillar of strength that people go to when they need him. And he does step up. He steps up and steps out quite often. And the fact that he and his wife have been so instrumental in providing mentorship to so many young people is amazing. And I wish there were more out there that would be that positive influence that people can look at and see in the lyrics, and hear the way the lyrics are presented. You know, it's one thing to write great lyrics, but when you get out there and you just passionately let it go,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing. It's something that you can connect with.
Yeah, definitely.
And he
Definitely.
does that. He brings his game. I think, you know, there are some other artists out there that are still doing that. I think it's just right now they're few and far between because of who's willing to step out right now, because of the climate and the collective and the attitude out there right now.
Well, not only that, because even like with Jay-Z and Beyonce, they do so much in the community, it just doesn't get publicized or whatever else. And I could only imagine that because of the stature that they bring, they may have a team behind them that they delegate to, which is still the same thing. Right. And it's sad because the artists that don't have the financials or whatever else, and they're the ones out on the forefront doing this, they're the ones, you know, putting themselves out there and whatever else. Like, there's someone that I follow on Instagram, and, you know, he goes by the name of Trey. He's in Houston. But when Ida hit, he was like, we're loading up and we're going to Louisiana.
Yeah, he has a big nonprofit, doesn't he? And he does those type. Yeah,
he does. Yeah. But even still, he does not have to do this. And I know you can genuinely see when someone does something out of the kindness, out of their heart, and not for the clout.
Yes.
And there's so many other artists and, you know, like organizations like hiphopgivesback.com, they do their best to highlight, you know, people in the industry that are doing positive things. And it's not just in the hip hop industry, I'm pretty sure collectively, but it still needs to be that one thing that we say it's okay to be an artist and still have a human side to give back. I think when it comes down to the money, that's where it's like, oh, you're too uppity to even give back to where you came from. That's why the whole thing of Joseph Campbell, of looking at your full circle, of going on your journey, and then, you know, you take the bullets, you learn your lessons, and you have to jump through the hoops and all that other stuff. As long as you come back to where you started, that's what matters.
Exactly. It's the journey. It's a full circle, finding your bliss, finding, and again, that's where these people are right now, is they have found their bliss. They found that target. They found that passion, and they keep doing it. And they keep going and they keep going, but they're also doing it for good. It's not just how it gives that fire on the inside, but it also is something that they can send out that can also do good on the outside as well as on the inside. And gosh, could you imagine the army of people that if they were really in tune with that, how different the world would be?
I could imagine it, and that's the reason why we do what we do. Now, I may not be the industry chick, I may not be a singer, I may not be a backup dancer, but at the same time, my love for music is really what has been the forefront for me to get through a lot of things. You know, we talk about this all the time, of using music as a way of having your escape, you know, a way out and all this other stuff. Now, my choice of music at specific times may be going back to the LOX and Dipset verses and going to tell you to go sit in a corner before I run you over, versus me saying, oh, let me listen to a little jazz. I don't listen to jazz a whole lot, but if I'm in a calm mood, I'll listen to calm music. If I'm ready to run you over, we know that it's either going to be Wu-Tang or Right Now the Lox. So it's just really one of those things. You got to take it where you see it.
You're making me laugh because yesterday
you gotta take it where you see it.
Yesterday, I introduced my children. Okay, so this tells you how old I am. I introduced my children to Coolio, and they listened to Gangsta's Paradise.
Are you serious?
And I made them sit down and read the lyrics and listen to it while I was rapping it. My girls were both like they liked the lyrics, but they were like, Mom, you got to cool it on the rap.
How is my friend acting?
Your friend was like dancing and listening to me go. And he was like,
I love my friend. He is going to be that. You know what? When he turns 21, I would be glad to take him to Vegas. Why? Because he is going to be an exact version of myself at the age of 21.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, he's already vying for your affection. So Mark better watch out because he already told me that he was there first. So
Yeah,
your
yeah.
your little friend loves you, but I'm literally driving down the road and I'm like going and the girls are like this, like, Mom, you're an idiot. And Noah's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah,
Well,
but
they are. So the girls are at the age though where it's like, okay, drop me off at the corner and
yes,
just act like you don't know me type thing because they
yes,
are getting older. But
yeah,
I don't
no,
think my
that,
friend
yeah.
will ever turn out that way.
My job is to embarrass them. So I'm taking that very seriously. So I've been
Yeah.
training in the last year to really like lay it on so that they are so embarrassed. But what they don't understand is that their mom is like super cool because I listen to everything because I need to.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. My coolness is like up here. They just don't recognize it yet. They
Yeah,
will someday.
yeah. If I were to look back over the years, like I've always had other people's kids in the house in addition to, RJ and Raymond, because it's like they come over. And I remember one day RJ and one of his friends were doing a project, and it was Wu-Tang's 36 Chambers album.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I can just see the face of this kid, and he's looking at RJ like, what just happened? Like, what? Because at the end of the day, I'm not the mom that would drop you off at school and have the talk radio on. Like, even before the moment Rayma gets out the car to go to class in college, guess what's happening? I am turning up the volume of what I had. Right now, it is Nas's King Disease 2 album. If you have not heard it, you have to listen to it. And of course, an album that I listen to practically every day, Reaganomics.
Oh yeah, Reaganomics.
So
Reaganomics.
it's really one of those things of like, yeah, you're not going to see the average turn it down type thing.
No.
Like, I wouldn't be doing any justice to music if I did.
No. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm a kid of the 80s, so I'm always blaring 80s music. And I mean, so I have found the trigger with my kids. So if any of you are from the 80s, you'll know what I'm talking about. So Africa by Toto. It was remade it was remade recently by Weezer. Great song. I love that song. I sing the harmonies on it. I kid you not, every time that song goes down, I see the girls slide down in the seat because they know I'm about to give on the performance. Because I'll be like doing air drums and I'm doing the whole thing, and I got the windows down. I don't care. It's my job to embarrass
Mom. They're
like,
no,
Mom, you're embarrassing me. I'm like,
oh my gosh. And I mean, at the end of the day, you just really have to look at when you appreciate music, you appreciate music.
yes.
And to me, it's, especially when you look at certain genres of music that have been the catalyst of the sounds that you hear today, when you really start looking at how many times Earth, Wind, and Fire may have been sampled, but then when you look at it from a whole different perspective on the hip hop realm, it's like you can take a sound and make it, and that's the reason why, and I'm not playing favoritism. That is the reason why we have one of the best producers on the team, because when it comes down to taking a sample and still keeping the integrity of it,
yes,
but making you fall in love with the song that's newly created,
yes,
that's like, wow. And to know that we have that caliber of people on the team,
yes,
to help the next generation do the same thing or even better. Because we're like, right, we're like, we don't care if you do it better than us. We're not going to feel threatened. This is what we're here for. We're here to teach you to do something better than what we do. It may be the same thing, but we need for you to feel comfortable that you can do it better.
See, and that's what I like that you bring that up, because this is something that I've had to deal with. Being a musician, this is something I've had to deal with since I was a teenager. What people don't understand is that when you hear someone say they're a musician, they expect you to be out gigging. They expect you to be out playing. They expect you to want to be out there performing and being out in the public eye. I love being a behind the scenes person. I don't want to perform. I hate performing. I don't want to perform. I'd rather stand behind someone and make them great, because what I'm doing is going to get paid forward. And it's going to help somebody else, and it's going to help somebody else, and it's going to help somebody else. And that's going to be my legacy. That's the thing. That's my legacy. I want to see somebody go out and do it 100 times better than my mediocre performance.
Yeah.
I'm not a performer. I want to see somebody who truly has the passion to be out there. I want to make that happen for them.
Right.
I'd rather be standing in the shadows watching you shine, because you're going to make my inner light shine even brighter.
Yeah.
Because that means that whatever you're doing, my light's going to shine brighter, because you're going to take that out there, and it's going to impact so many other people who are then going to want to do the same thing, who's then going to want to do the same. So it's like this pay it forward kind of thing. And the team that we have, they have the same philosophy, which is so great, because their lights are shining, but they're going to become these beacons for all this mass of people that are going to go out and make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's one song at a time, whether it's one album at a time, whether it's one drum beat at a time, whether it's going out and becoming a DJ and making a whole different sound. I mean, it's and to know that if we do this right, which we will, the lives that are going to be impacted and the changes socially that can happen, that have been perpetuated by the higher ups, taking that and creating this collective army that just want to see people succeed, when there are so many others out there that want to see them destroyed, is a huge thing. Huge
but
thing.
That takes self-sacrifice too, though. And that's the reason why our listeners may not have heard from us in a while.
Yeah, because we've been sacrificing a lot.
Right. We've been in the trenches, and so much to say that, we're really excited that we have SMBX as a small business bond backing us for the raise of what we're doing. And, even in that, it's just really one of those things of the reason why we've been pushing so much to get certain things done, the reason why we've been focusing more on teammate engagement and taking care of, and please hear us when we say this, we're not just taking care of our clients and customers, we're really pouring back into our team. And we had to step back and say, where are we missing the mark? What are we not doing? Because if we're not taking care of home, everyone else can't be taken care of. Yep. So if that means us making sure that the puppy of a teammate is, have what they need, then that's what we need to do. And not to say that we're doing it to like, oh, I help your puppy, so you owe me your life. Like, no, like we see that as an extension of family. And we know that if the teammate is concerned about the puppy, then the teammate can't be their self or their best version of themselves to give someone else their passion.
Absolutely. And we've had to shed some skin. And the other thing, the self-sacrifice, we've had to shed some skin. We've had to shed some people that are not in tune with that way of thinking. And while that's hard to do, and it's not the most pleasant task, it's making sure that we're doing the action and taking the steps to create something that's going to make a difference and have the people in place that have the same mindset.
Right. So we'll put the link out there for SMBX. It is only for another 50 days, but we also have been rolling out a sponsorship program, because the programs that we're rolling out, especially in inner cities like Chicago, possibly going to Tulsa, definitely coming to Atlanta. We know that they're just people that may not have the resources, but we don't want to count them out.
No.
Like, if I know that I have to give whatever I can so one child can go through one of our programs, those are the sacrifices that we're willing to make. And, just allowing other people who have the same mindset and heart to be a part of that, So if you have a community that you would want to see our programs come out to, we're going to put the link down in the show notes for our new info packet that just outlines everything. Just let us know, because again, one thing that I can say about COVID, we have mastered the hybrid model.
Yes, we have.
We have mastered it to the T, where it's like we can just take that, regardless if you're in China or Alaska, we know how to do it virtual. We know that if we need to fly out to you, that we would do some things virtually and then come to you as a hybrid. That's what we're doing in Chicago. We're starting virtually, and then the last week or two of the program, we're going there in person because the kids need to be in the studio. We need to have our production team in the studio with them. So just, and of course, still being COVID friendly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do, because the health and the wellness of our people and our clients, come first. But this is the reason why we're going so hard. This is the reason why we've been stepping back to say, what is it that we need to do again inwardly?
Yes.
And we've had personal conversations of, we can't have this thinking personally if we're expecting big things to happen.
When we say we have shed blood, sweat, and tears, we have truly shed blood, sweat, and tears in the last few months. There have been a lot of tears shed while we've gone through this process.
Still is.
People are going to benefit from it. And I'll tell you what, what we've talked about in the past with Find Your Voice and Empower Your Voice, we've completely revamped these programs.
Yeah.
We've completely revamped them. We have brought in an amazing producer who is involved, who has more than graciously involved himself in this business to make it a better product. Find Your Voice, mental health help for kids and for teens and tweens. We have a producer, a Grammy nominated producer who is now involved in this, who is going to help take the songs that these kids write in there, to get all of that out of them and make these beautiful songs sound amazing. Empower Your Voice. He has been helping a client find not only his voice personally, but he's created another music program to help him find his voice in the music industry.
Yeah. And this client is in California. So
so it's like these amazing things are happening out there, folks, that we want to share with you because they're life-changing. They are truly, truly life-changing for you, for your kids, for your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. When we say music is for everyone, that is what we stand by.
Yeah.
Music is for everyone. And we want to make that happen for anyone that wants it. And that's why we have the sponsorship packages. That's why we partner with SMBX. And there's been a lot that's gone into doing these partnerships because we want what's best for you. We want to provide what's best for you. And we're willing to go to every length possible to make that happen. All that we ask is that you take a moment and look at what we have to offer. And if you know someone that could benefit from these, pass the information on.
Yeah. And I need to definitely highlight Jonathan as well. Jonathan is a new teammate, which came through the doors, busting it down. And I have to give honor to him because he's one that has sacrificed his life, not just for his personal, but for the country as well. Mm-hmm. To say that we have a very compassionate, because he's a very compassionate and passionate person who has given service to our country and then wants to turn right back around and say, how can I do this through music? That's just like, oh, wow. And to tell you, we know we need to touch on the mindset piece really quick. To tell you how things have been flowing, like you've heard us say before that when we start to let go, things start to happen. Mm-hmm. But when we truly went through the tears and all, I mean, we've had crucial conversations, and that's a book for people to read. I had to go through the training for corporate America. Read Crucial Conversations. And these are conversations that we kind of shy away from because we're like, oh, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or whatever else. Like we've had these crucial conversations, and out of those conversations, we knew that collectively, not just, oh, it's just you, like, no, collectively, we had to switch some things. And the moment we did that, Jonathan walks through the door. We get partnership in Chicago, SMBX, and all. And so again, it's releasing and going back to how we started this, the hoarding. Like, what is it that you need to let go to allow other things to come in? And of course, the famous TED Talks that I get from a specific person, he was like, have you seen the picture with the little girl holding the little teddy bear, and Jesus has this big teddy bear behind him, and he's wanting to give her the big teddy bear, only she needs to let go of what she has in her hand. And of course, it's like, I've seen it before, and I'll put it in, I'll see if I can find the picture of it and put it in the show notes. But that's what it was. It's, what are we willing to let go? Are we willing to let go of the ego, the temperaments, and all this other stuff? And even when we say temperaments, not like the tantrums or whatever else, it's the temperaments of shying away from those crucial conversations, or the temperaments of hiding from being business owners. Like, there are so many things that we had to shed, because again, if we're even afraid, like, real talk, afraid to look at bank accounts because we put so much out there, it's like, what is that one thing that I have to now look at, that I'm scared to look at? But then it came back, if we're supposed to be managing millions of dollars, again, not to pay ourselves, but to put back out in the communities, we have to look at what's afraid to us now, and be okay to say that, again, walking by faith and not by sight, that regardless of what we do see in the bank accounts, that it's going to be multiplied 100-fold or more for us to be able to serve the communities that we need to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's the funny thing is, when you said having the real talk, what's so funny about the real talk is that it's truth.
Yeah.
And I always laugh when we have those truth conversations, because you'll always say, I don't want to hurt your feelings, or what. And the thing is I am going to get my feelings hurt, but I need my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Because when you have to see the truth, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be messy. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'd much rather hurt my feelings and know truth than have somebody sugarcoat crap for me and completely blow it.
Well, I know it's for me though. Like, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And real talk, if we're going to be transparent, I have threatened, not even threatened, I have promised to say that if things don't change, I'm done. Yep. Like, I literally thought about going back to a 9-to-5. Like, I have literally said, if this does not change, I am done with everybody. Everybody can go sit in the corner, play with their own toys. I don't care if you got the latest and greatest new Game Boy. Don't show it to me, because I'm not playing with you anymore.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to be your playmate anymore if this is how it's going to be.
You're like, I'm going home.
Right. And those are the conversations that we've had. And the reason why I can appreciate our relationship is because we can have those conversations. And yeah, we may have our moments of snotting and crying. I mean, we've both been on the phone crying. Yep. But then we come back to it and say, okay, what are we going to do? Because it's not about us.
Mm-hmm. No,
it's not. It's about who is the person. And the crazy thing is, all of this happens behind the scenes. Nobody else on the team knows about this. They may just be knowing about it right now when they listen to this podcast.
Right.
But we'd be snot nosed. And then Krista will go, because again, we're in 2 different locations. She'll go teach a piano lesson, and I'm on the phone with the next partner as if nothing happened. Yep. Because we have to keep it moving.
Yep.
And not to say that we're suppressing, feelings or whatever else, but we have those conversations, we talk it out. We come back and say, okay, what are we doing moving forward? Because we can't take baggage. We can't take our personal baggage into greatness, which is then going to hinder the people who we're supposed to be serving. It's not supposed to work that way.
Exactly. And we're going to, and the thing is I think we both know that as we go through and we start moving upward and onward, we both know that at some point we're going to hit that point, and then we're going to have to have that conversation again. But we know that. And we know that we're both, I mean, the thing is because there's truth there and respect of the truth.
Yeah.
That's why when something is said that tweaks a nerve, it needed to tweak the nerve, because action happens when you tweak. That's what happens when you nick it. When you nick it, there's action. You get into complacency.
Yeah.
Someone speaks truth, you're like, shit, I got to move now. I've been sitting in this holding pattern. She sees me sitting in this holding pattern. She's calling me out on my holding pattern. I need to move now. That's my sign. I need to move my ass. I can't sit in the corner watching them play anymore, because I've been called out because I'm sitting in the corner watching them play. It's time for me to step into the arena and do my job. So people are going to call you out, folks.
Yeah.
And they're doing it for your better good. And we have a relationship where she calls me on my shit. And I love her even more because of it, because it makes me a better person.
Yeah, you do the same too. And it may not be on the business level, but even so, Krista knows me enough to know when to call me out on personal stuff.
Yeah.
Business is, because to me, personal affects the business. So if I'm not thinking at a certain level on the personal level, now don't get me wrong, we have full faith that we can jump off the Empire State Building with our bras and land on our feet. We have the most faith in that.
Yep.
But let's be real. Sometimes if you are downing yourself as a mother because something happens and you live the whole Lifetime movie of, oh my gosh, I'm the worst parent and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be honest. I have 2 kids in college. I still don't know half the time what the hell I'm doing, but they still alive, and
they have their appendages, all 4 appendages.
Exactly.
Heads are still attached.
Right. So when I have to step back, you have to celebrate the small moments. I have 2 kids in college who are not going to college in debt.
Nope.
Full ride scholarships.
Yep.
And the fact that I'm going to have, and I had to say this before, like I have a Black son who went into his sophomore year as an RA.
Yep. Yep.
And people are like, how is that big? I can say that's big because I would be bold enough to say that by the grace of God, he has not been a statistic. As much as people may have said that I may have been harsh or whatever else, at the end of the day, I know that my kid can be better than Tyler Perry and Spike Lee put together because I said so. I don't give a rat's ass what they say because I said so. The same thing with my daughter.
Yep.
She's in her freshman year, not a statistic. Now they're by nature statistic because they've been raised in a single parent family home. But even then, like at the end of the day, you have to give yourself a high five in the smallest moment.
Yes.
But going back to sometimes those smallest moments don't feel so great. And then it trickles into everything else. And it's like, I don't want to be bothered. I'm going back to a 9 to 5. Then it's like when I realize the freedom that I have by not working a 9 to 5, I snap back into reality. But there are sometimes that Krista needs to call me more so on the self part, because I'm always giving of self, but then I don't give myself to myself, if that makes sense. So she's calling me on the plate plenty of times. And if I don't give to myself, it affects how I give to her.
Well, it's how you give to yourself. I mean, the thing is if you don't give to self and you deplete, we only have so much in our tanks.
Yeah.
We have 4 tanks. And if those get depleted and we end up giving so much emotional energy, giving our emotional energy to other people, that drains your tank and it keeps taking away from what you can give to yourself and your kids. Yeah. So when you're on E, because you've given and given and given and given and given to the point where it has been sucked completely dry, whether it's from the kids, whether it's me, whether it's other business owners, whatever it is, when you haven't taken that time for your self-care and give yourself something, you're done.
Yeah.
You completely shut down. And then that affects your relationship with your significant other. It affects your relationship with your friends, your family, all of that. And you are the first one that will nail yourself to a cross and drag it down the street behind you if you know it's going to better somebody else.
Yeah.
You do that. And you will do that, and you will walk it until you can't walk it anymore. And then you'll crawl. And that's when I have to call you out, because at that point, you should have dropped it like 10 miles back.
Yeah.
Because you not only went on E, but you like dragged you bore a hole in the bottom of your tank, and anything that you are able to pour into it is like leaking out the bottom.
Yeah.
You're bleeding out at that point. So it's like, and then that's when I see you suffer mentally and physically. And then I see you pulling back from the things that make you happy. And really, at the end of the day, it's about, you went into this to be happy. You were into this to be the one that could find your bliss in what you were doing. But when your bliss starts costing you everything, is it really worth it anymore? Well, no.
Yeah.
So,
No,
and you are a
true.
self-sacrificer. You are by nature.
Yeah, and that's true. So this gives you an example of what we go through. This gives you an example of our day-to-day conversations. Like, you just had a Cliff Note version of our conversation in so many different areas that may have been over time span of 3 months. You got that in maybe 15 minutes. So with that, thank you for all of your support.
Yes.
Not just on the donuts, coffee, and pocketbook side, but everything that we've been doing on the GMA side. And however we can help service your community, please let us know.
Please do. Please reach out to us. We have email addresses that I will put in there. We have the website to go to. Please reach out to us, because we are genuine when we say this. We want to help as many people as possible. We want to get out there. We want to get in the communities. Help us do that.
Yes. So until next time.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.